Street Fighter, Tekken, and Mortal Kombat all have rich legacies that span back 20 to pretty much 30 years at this point, which means we've all been introduced to these characters and these series at different points and in different ways. Some of you met the characters like Ryu, Ken, and Chun-Li back in the arcades in the 90s, and some of you in 2009 when Street Fighter 4 came out. And for my generation, a younger generation, I'm 23 for any context, but my generation didn't meet a lot of these characters until 2016 when Street Fighter 5 came out. Because if you do the math, in 2009, I was 11 years old, and I know Street Fighter 4 went till 2014. So from the ages of 11 to 16, this game was not marketed to me at all. Watching Disney, watching Nickelodeon, Cartoon Network, all those channels, and then even growing up and watching like other networks, I never saw a Street Fighter 4 commercial, and I was not their target audience. That was pretty clear. And the problem with that is all of my friends were about the same age. Some of us are 3 years younger, 3 years older. We fall on a little spectrum, right? 23 is about the median. And none of us were ever shown these commercials or any type of advertising for Street Fighter 4, or it just didn't grab the attention of the younger generation back then. So consequently, we know the names of iconic characters like Ken and Ryu, but we don't really know these characters. We don't know their lore, their background, and we don't have any real attachment to them or their IPs. But a game that we did grow up with, that we are pretty attached to, is League of Legends. I'm trying to hit 5,000 subscribers by the month of June, so if you enjoy this video, please consider subscribing. Now, I myself have been playing League of Legends since I was in middle school. Since about Season 2 off and on, I have played the game. It's been probably 10 years at this point. And so I'm fairly attached to the characters that I play, and when they get buffed, I get excited, and when they get nerfed, I get sad, and when they get a rework, it's exciting, and they get a skin, and I'm ready to buy it. Riot has me by the balls when it comes to the characters that I play and the way that they sell me things for them. There have been points where I don't play League of Legends for like a year and a half, but I hear that Camille's got a new skin, and I'll log on the game and buy it because I like the character. And I know if I come back and play with my friends, because eventually you always come back to League of Legends, I will have the skin and I'll be able to play and use it. Riot is very good at doing that, making you feel attached to your character through story building, through lore, through gameplay updates, and all kinds of different things. They are very good at making you want to play your character again eventually. And there's data out there to support this. When Arcane came out on Netflix and it took the world by storm because it was actually a phenomenal series, the play rates for characters like Jinx and Jace skyrocketed. And in order to capitalize on all of the new people coming to the game from the series, they gave out a bunch of Arcane skins that were themed around the characters from the show and made them look like their forms in the show, and they were free. And that was to garner some attachment and affection from you to feel more connected to this character. And whether they do these things as a marketing scheme, you know, whether they build up the lore or whether they give you free things in order for you to feel attached and buy more things down the line, or whether they just really love their characters, it fucking works either way. Because my friends and I will play this game, and for 24 minutes, one of them will say that they hate this game and it is trash for 24 minutes. And the second we load out of the game, they'll buy like Battle Bunny Misfortune, like whatever the new skin is. They know that we are attached to this IP and we are attached to these characters and we want more of them. And they sell us on that. And that's why I think Project L is going to capture these players. It's going to capture people who aren't interested in Ryu. They're not interested in Raiden from MK, and they're not interested in Kazuya. They're interested in Echo from League of Legends. They're interested in Misfortune. They're interested in Jinx and Jace. We spent thousands of hours playing these characters and playing against them. It's just like how 20 years ago people did it in the arcades. We just happen to do it on the Rift playing a MOBA. And the company that makes the game and makes these characters is just really good at drawing us in and keeping us interested throughout our lives, right? I've been through middle school, high school, college now, and I still play the same characters. I think the only fighting game that's ever come close to sort of bridging that gap between older FGC and the younger, like, new audience that Arxis or Capcom or whoever wants to capture is Dragon Ball. That game, one, had the highest peak of any fighting game ever on Steam. I think it peaked at about 48,000. And DBZ as an IP transcends any generation like no other IP I've ever seen. Everybody from young to old loves that show and loves the manga and everything that goes along with it. My dad watched DBZ. It's pretty crazy to think about. It's so expansive that somebody like me, I've never watched DBZ, I've never read the manga, I've never done anything anything like that, I've only played DBFZ, can learn more about the characters from my friends who watched the show, or they read the manga, or they saw some movie or something, right? It's just so expansive and immersive that it captures a huge audience. And that's kind of what I think is going to happen with Project L. I think it's going to capture not only the younger people, but hopefully the old heads will give it a shot, and maybe they've, I don't know, played TFT or something, and they recognize a character they played back then and they want to touch the game in some way. And if all else fails, I'm sure like the competition and the prize pools and all that, whatever it is probably going to be a decent amount of money. We'll draw in the older FGC who doesn't know what League of Legends is, doesn't care about the characters, but just wants to compete and have a good time. Overall, I'm just happy that a game where I know most of the characters already, I know the IP, and I'm attached to some of the characters already is going to be coming out within the next few years. I hope it's by like the end of 2023. Because it really does get pretty tiring to pick up a fighting game, play a character that's been around for years and years and years that I just wasn't there for, and have to ask people, oh, how did this character play before? Was this character cool? And like people always tell me, especially when I play Jury, they're like, oh, Street Fighter 4 Jury was so much better. I was like, I never knew Street Fighter 4 Jury, so I have nothing to say in this conversation. I have no horse in this race. You just can't help but feel like you missed out on something that was pretty big to somebody else and that you just won't ever be able to experience again, you know? You'll never really truly know that character in its previous form because you can't go back and play against these other players in their prime or like play the character when the game was the main game or whatever. And you're not going to go back and learn that character in and out for a game that nobody plays anymore, right? So you just live vicariously through replays and through highlights and tournament footage and try to piece together what this character really was, what they were like, and the history behind them. But for something like Project L, where I was around from pretty much the beginning of the game to now, I won't really have to do that. I'll know what the character is like, and I'll know not how they play, right? Because it's a completely different genre, but I'll know kind of their style and like what I'm looking for and their story. There's no previous iteration of the game for people to say like, oh, this character was so much better way back when, before you played. You should have played them back then. Why are you playing them now? It'll be a clean slate and hopefully bring together some of the fighting game community and some of the League of Legends community, for better or for worse. I don't really know. I don't know how those two groups will interact, but hopefully it'll be for the better. But I think that's going to be it for me today. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing, and I'll talk to you again soon.